Shalom, this is Beit Bar Messianic Outreach. My name is Gene, and today is Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2026. And we're going to do a little bit of step out of our normal routine, and I'll announce that when we get there. Okay, first things first, let's take a look at our bulletin. Here we are. Come on, you can do this. There we are. Okay. Bar Messianic Outreach. The bulletin is dated for March 21. We're not quite there yet. We're a couple days away from that. The bulletin is, the dates for the bulletin are set for the Sabbath, where the bulletin would be proper, which is this coming Sabbath. So it's not quite March 21, but the bulletin is dated for that. Okay, we meet at the Idaho State Veterans Home in Post Falls. The address is here. You're welcome to come. It's open to the public, and come on down. Okay, we have a normal Shabbat Shachrit prayer service, announcements and discussion on the readings for the week, and this week is week 24, Vayikra, and the readings are there. Okay. Continually pray for the peace of Jerusalem, something we should always be thinking of. Next week's reading, Bamidbar. Okay, I did something wrong here. Okay, never mind next week's reading. For some reason, I got the wrong thing up there. I've been doing that a lot lately. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm. Oh well. No. Oh, I see. Okay. Never mind. I'm off. Okay. We do our weekly meeting on Wednesdays at 6:30. If you're hearing this, you're on. And upcoming events, April 1st. This next Wednesday is that's right, it's Pesach. For some reason, all my dates are off, or my brain is off. Let's put it that way. Wednesday evening goes through, continues on. No leaven, no yeast. This is our final call. Get this all in before it's too late. That's a couple weeks. Actually, it's not this coming Wednesday, but 2 weeks. Right? Yeah. I don't know. Okay, March 21st. I'm thinking, I'm looking at 21 and I'm thinking 31.
Yeah.
My brain is just not functioning today.
It's in 2 weeks.
So this will be a fun day. Okay, Pesach, April 1 in the evening. Begin Chag Matzot the day after that, 7 days of unleavened bread, no regular work on the first and last day of Chag Matzot. And it continues for the next week. The Sabbath of the festival is going to be on April 4. That evening is Yom HaBikurim, the Feast of First Fruits. And we celebrate the resurrection of Messiah on this date because he rose just after sundown on what we would call Saturday evening, and on our calendar, April 4th. Okay. And following that, we begin counting the Omer from 1 all the way to 50, and then we get to anyways. Okay, Chag Matzot ends on beginning April 9th on Thursday evening, continuing to 10th Friday day. Then Following that, we have on April 14, Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. And the 17th, Friday evening, is Rosh Chodesh Iyar, which is the second month of the biblical year. Okay, questions, comments, rebukes as to our calendar and events going on. Okay, let's let me see. Yeah. This comes up from time to time, this issue. Um, what should we be doing and how should we be bringing in new believers? Um, People who are new to the walk, who don't know anything. There's a lot of isms and schisms out there. And so we need to be careful how we explain to the new folks what's important and where should we start. And this is basically a survey, not necessarily reading every single verse in Acts 15. Um, but the beginning of the issue came in certain men. We know later on that there were Pharisees. Certain men came down from Judea and taught the brethren, unless you are circumcised according to the custom of Moses, you cannot be saved. So, one of the hardest things you can do to a new believer is give them a whole new list of things they have to do in order to belong and to be saved. Um, and so you want to make sure that our teaching is clear and direct. So you read through the language here, and you get the idea that these were Pharisees, Pharisees or Sadducees, um, who came from Judea and started teaching you cannot be saved unless you are circumcised according to the custom of Moses. And there's a little bit of code here. According to the custom of Moses is a way of saying you have to do it according to the tradition. Okay. Um, and we covered this a lot when we did Galatians. That the big issue wasn't the question of whether or not you should be circumcised, because the Bible explains that clearly enough. But doing the circumcision in the learning the traditions and the habits of the Pharisees, and that was the big issue. And Paul's big complaint about doing the circumcision process was doing it the way the Pharisees told you had to do. Basically, you are promising to be a willing Pharisee in order to take their circumcision and their baptism and their oaths. And that wasn't the point. So this is sort of a similar argument, somewhat different wording, but a similar argument. Some people came alleging to be authorities and saying that you have to be circumcised according to the custom of Moses. The word there, custom, instead of the commandments of Moses, it's something else. The custom of Moses, in other words, all the stuff the Pharisees were teaching you, you had to be an adherent to in order to even arrive at salvation in this way. And they put it this way to the congregation in Acts 15: unless you do it our way, you cannot be saved. Okay. So we know from the beginning this is a wrong statement. Okay. Salvation is and has always been a matter of trust in Messiah's actions, not gained by self-promotion and the things I do to achieve this status. Okay, but rather it's trust in what God has done, and what he had given Moses in the way of instructions. Okay. Um, the intent here is to understand that Israel is rescued from Egypt and then received instructions. Okay, notice that we were rescued and then we received the rules of how to live as a redeemed people. Okay. The Pharisees, even the modern Orthodox, get this backwards. You have to follow their rules for a chance of being part of their group. Okay. And you have to go with what they say, or you don't have a chance of being part of their group. Okay. Uh, that was repudiated at the time, and then at verse 15, in Acts 15, verse 5, you have the same issue, but now it's specifically the one of the some of the sect of the Pharisees who believed in Yeshua rose up and said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moses." Okay, if you remember the code work that we had with Galatians, keeping the law of Moses was their way of saying our rules and our regulations. So this is the same idea happening twice now in Acts 15. Okay. Um, so these were believers in Yeshua who were still of the party of the Pharisees. They wanted to require all Gentiles to convert to a religiously Pharisee Jewish lifestyle. This requirement goes far beyond biblical commandments, and that was the whole issue in Galatians. Is why we shouldn't be doing this, because if you agree to that, you agree to follow all their rules, the Orthodox, the Pharisee, or whatever, the Sadducee rules, whatever, you all their rules you obligate yourself to follow if you do it their conversion their way. Okay. So there's a little bit of a problem with that. So there's a little bit of discussion going on. And so we get to verse 11, and you have James making his statements as saying, when the group was gathered, and there was a big convocation about this, but we believe that through the grace of the Lord Yeshua, Jesus Christ, I use the Old English on this, we shall be saved in the same manner as they, talking about they're being saved in the same manner. We're being saved, the Gentiles being saved in the same manner as they, as in the native-born Jews. Same result is that you have to go through Yeshua. You have to appeal to Yeshua. You have to acknowledge and embrace what Yeshua has done for us for that salvation to work. In other words, it's all the same program for all of us. Okay. Peter explains that the Gentiles were accepted by God as Gentiles and given the Spirit without the requirement of religious conversion. Notice that. That's the straight statement. He also admits even native-born Jews cannot earn salvation by perfect adherence to the commandments or the traditions of Phariseeism. Thus, all are accepted by God only by faith in his graceful arrangement of atonement through Yeshua. And that's how we get there. Okay. And so the issue was basically answered in that statement. But the question is new. So how should we live now that we are saved? Do we continue living as we did before? Obviously, the answer is no. We don't keep living the way we lived before, but rather we are converted by following God's commandments. And this is the core of the bit here is in verses 19, 20, and 21, where he says, "Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the Gentiles who are turning to God, but that we write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from things strangled, and from blood." And the explanation for this is in verse 21, "For Moses has throughout many generations those who preach him in every city being read in the synagogue every Sabbath. That's the statement that we always have to keep coming back to. Um, and so, what does this mean? Um, this means that we should not be requiring believers who are, especially the newbies, who don't know much yet about walking in God's ways. Um, we shouldn't be teaching them a system of Phariseeism or some other kind of ism or schism that's out there that teaches adherence to man-made rules. Okay, but rather we should be teaching what the scriptures say. And in verse 21 is sort of like the central statement for Acts 15. Moses has throughout many generations those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath. Okay, so the basic bottom line here is that there are simply two things that you want to present to a Gentile who's coming to believe in a messianic walk, and even somebody who's Jewish who needs retraining after years of following Orthodox or other versions of a traditional Judaism that embraces the rabbis rather than Moses. Okay, and most important thing is, and the two biggest steps here, the two big steps here, is one, get into the synagogue for the weekly Sabbath services, and the other part is, you know, Moses is, we have a system, and it's usually most congregations have a yearly system. Some congregations choose a triennial or a biennial, some kind of different reading system. That's okay. But Moses is read, the Torah, the five books, what Moses compiled for us. That's all read every synagogue and every Sabbath day in one section or another, which means you're going to learn everything. So the bottom line, and what we need to remember to do, is, especially with new people coming in, is to not get too caught up in pushing all the details on people. They will learn as they go. Moses is read in every synagogue and every Sabbath day. How are you going to learn how to keep the Sabbath? Well, you're going to hang out with people that do that. So you're going to learn by hanging out, with you. We have Pesach coming up. So what do we do to prepare? The people that are there can, who've done this before, can teach you that. You don't have to. You don't have to demand a different set of rules and regulations that are man-made, but rather we can look at, okay, how do we do this? Okay, and that's how we need to teach that. It's very important that we do this because it's too easy to get sidetracked on all the details of what you have to do, say, for a Sabbath. Okay, and if you go to the to the Orthodox point of view, there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that you got to do for Sabbath that's not there in the scriptures. For beginning with having to light a candle 15 minutes before sundown and say certain prayers. And the poor woman of the house has to provide 3 sumptuous meals to the whole family. Um, you know, uh, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and to the point where the poor ladies are exhausted by preparing these meals and doing the cleaning and stuff on Sabbath in order to make ready for the next sumptuous meal. To the point where a lot of wives and mothers don't go to shul because they're too exhausted to go. If they show up, they'll sit down, relax, and you'll have to wake them up when it's time to go home. Um, and so, you have to be careful. It's great to learn how to do things, but you always have to take the instructions as it were, with a grain of salt to find out, does this really help you keep the commandment, or is it simply a pile of traditions that don't really affect one way or the other in your walk with God? Um, so as we're treating new believers, as we're dealing with new believers, we need to be focused on getting them into Scripture, which is reading Torah every week in the synagogue will get you there, and then teaching them how to go about doing the things that the Torah teaches. And people will learn as they go. They will grow into what they are doing, and they will be. It'll be a happier, easier process if you hold out learning as you go rather than saying you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do the other thing. Um, you know, and it's going to be an imperfect process for a while. None of us are perfect in our walk, anyways. So who are we to require that they follow our way of doing things? We can make recommendations. When it comes to get ready for um, you know when it comes to getting ready for Pesach, start early, take your time, go through it carefully. Um, and that way people don't get overwhelmed. Okay. And then my starters kit, my recommendation here. What commandments should we learn to live? Well, actually, all of them, but where do we start? You have to start somewhere. So you have Exodus 20, the basic list. Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14 is an expanded list. Also, Leviticus 23 is the list of the holy days. The most holy days of the year. So that's my starting list of where to start. But it's all back to what's in the Scripture, and that's what I kind of want to do. I know I've been yakking on here. Questions, comments, rebukes so far?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one, Gene.
Yes.
Um, just happened to come across on YouTube this morning. They were talking about the rapture versus the second coming,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that got my attention, one of the guys was saying that he was for the rapture and how um the he didn't necessarily say messianics, but they're but he was referring to, like, how can they go after, it's like they're going after Moses, they're idolizing, or they're putting Moses above Yeshua or
Yeah.
Jesus was and it's like, but I mean, it basically comes down to um the fact that he doesn't know the Torah, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. But how can you how can you go against somebody that doesn't know the Torah?
Well, we're actually at the right spot. What is expected for what a new believer should be doing? Right here in Acts 15. Okay. Get yourself into a synagogue where Moses is read. Learn about Sabbath, learn about the holy days. Um, that should be our focus. And once
Yeah.
you start learning from Moses, learning for what God gave to Moses to give to us, the Torah, um, then everything else fills in as you go.
Well, that's what I usually do. It just caught me by surprise, like, when he said that, people are putting Moses above Yeshua, and I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah.
it just kind of like, are we? No. Because it goes, even the Gospels, I can't remember which one, and he says, go back to the seat of
Mhm.
Moses.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
always going back to Torah.
Yeah. The counter question on that would be, did Yeshua not tell us to go to Moses for authority?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeshua told us to go to Moses.
Hmm.
So if he's complaining that people are following Yeshua's instruction, I don't think it's our problem. The difficulty, uh, there's so many folks that are used to doing teaching their own ways as if it's God's.
Mhm.
And that's a dead giveaway that, if they're saying it's wrong to follow God's commandments, they have an issue.
Yeah.
We don't have the issue. They have the issue. And yeah, and that's crazy. Now, the counter for that is right there in Acts 15. It's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up. Is if someone says, well, you got to put away all that Old Testament stuff. So, you know, after Messiah's, come and gone home, after the
Mhm.
Spirit has been given to the believers in God, James stands up and says, what do we do with the Gentiles? Well, let's, you know, get them in the synagogue and teach them God's command, teach them Moses, because that's what you're going to be studying every day, every week in the synagogue and every Sabbath day. So that's what do you do with new believers? You get them into Torah, and every week you're going to be talking about it. Okay, so for someone else to comment and say it's wrong to be focused on Torah, they're going to have to stand before Messiah and explain why, you know that was why he's going against what James is saying in Acts 15.
It's interesting though too, now that I think about it, because I'm one of those that became a believer back in '67, and there were no Messianic congregations,
Mm-hmm.
and and I mean they even had a hard time, with trying to some of the churches didn't even want to receive us,
Yeah,
and so it's kind of the opposite here is like, why didn't they want to receive us? But they should
mm-hmm.
have known, go to your scriptures, go to Acts 15. What does it mean? They should have known
Yeah,
what they should be doing with this.
yeah. I don't think I've ever heard your standard preacher going at Acts 15, um, and trying to take the plain statement that Moses is read in every synagogue and every Sabbath day as a negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of what, in legal parlance is called res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself.
Hmm.
And so you read what James is saying. Moses is read in every synagogue every Sabbath day. Get the Gentiles into the synagogue where they can learn as they go. Um, Now, the difficulty is you have way too much doctrination going on. Um, you know, uh, from Catholicism, Lutheranism, all
Hmm.
all the other isms out there that preach a replacement of God's ways and God's commands. They take the position that God wants us to ignore His commandments and do something different. And we're going to make sure you're not a member of our congregation if you think we should be doing it. You know? So it's one of those things. And so this is Acts 15 is a statement for all believers, but it's especially important for new believers because they don't know what to do, where to go, and how to get things going in the right direction. Go and hang out with the people that keep the Sabbath. You know, go out and hang out with the people that observe the commandments of God, the holy days and the holidays, because you're going to learn, one, you're going to learn to do them, and then two, you're going to learn how. And that's the big advantage of being amongst people who observe the commandments of God, who follow the commands of God, because you're going to learn how to do them and realize it's not an impossible burden. Okay.
I'd
Um,
like to say something. I,
yes,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's just I think it's just interesting how people say that they don't want to follow, they have nothing to do with the um well, the Old Testament, because
Mhm.
there wouldn't be an old there wouldn't be a New Testament if there wasn't an Old Testament. And then the Bible at the end, doesn't it say, do not take away from my word? Like, so if they're following the New Testament, then the very last words say that. So
Yeah,
why would they want to take away those words? Because it's not like they should not be. And I think that you don't have to rebut or refute, or how, I don't know the word you said, but I mean, if we always have our Bible with us, like,
yeah,
you could always open it up.
yeah. And that's the difficulty. There's a conundrum there that they can't answer is why do you say you love God and you love his word when you actively deny it and actively deny the importance and the fact that we should be following it.
Right, because the first words in the Bible are, in the beginning, he created us.
Yeah,
I just So if he created us, hello, why would you take away from that? Because I don't know. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, I know this is pretty short, but that's pretty much the whole thing. I wanted to just lay that out there and explain it, so it's one of the things you can download from the website um, after tomorrow or so. And because it's one of those topics that I keep pounding on. I keep running into it because I'm constantly running into circumstances where you have to explain to somebody that God didn't mean to throw away his commandments and start something new. Matter of fact that rather all the teaching that we get in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, it all says to follow what's in what they call the Old Testament to do it. Okay. Um, okay. Any other questions, comments, rebukes? Okay. Let me. There we go. All right. Father, thank you for bringing us together, and Lord, help us to remember the stuff that we've covered and make good use of it. Help us to be equipped to answer all questions, and help us to make use of what we've discussed tonight, so that we may be well equipped to handle these things. Thank you very much, Lord, for bringing us together. And God willing, we'll see each other next week. Hashem Yeshua. Amen.
Man.
Amen. Rabbi Jean, did you put up the regular no work days?
Oh, hold on a second. Why does this do this to me? Ah, there we are.